Hi, my name is Dana Sardano, and this is the Ubuntu Room. I am so glad you're here. Thank you for joining me. For those of you who are new to me and what I do, the Ubuntu Room is a place where we talk all things personal empowerment, all things spiritual development, and everything that falls in between. It's where we recognize that the power is in our hands to create the lives that we desire, and that personal empowerment and spiritual development are actually very much intertwined. And each of us on our own journey of self-discovery falls somewhere on that spectrum. It's my hope that by having these conversations, maybe I can meet you where you fall, and perhaps we can travel together. So today we are talking solar plexus chakra. A couple weeks ago, we talked root chakra, represented in red, greatest age of resonance, 0 to 7, and it's all about safety and security, stability and grounding. Then we talked sacral, represented in orange, greatest age of resonance, 7 to 14, and that's about creativity and passion, zest for life, intimacy, sexuality, sensuality, enjoyment. And today we're talking solar plexus, represented, can't see below my boobies, represented in yellow. Greatest age of resonance is from 14 to 21. And the aspects of self that correlate with the solar plexus chakra, the big one, it's the stage of identity. This is when you know who you are. And think about the developmental years, 14 to 21, that's when you're figuring it out. So this is about knowing yourself. This is your solar plexus. Remember, everything's, if you're paying attention, it comes from your gut. This is about your sense of confidence, self-worth, self-esteem, drive and ambition. This is about your belief in your worthiness and understanding that you are empowered to pursue your purpose. This is where it's at. And this is where, like I said, where you're figuring it out, where you're going to make mistakes, right? You're kind of trial and error as you move into adulthood. However, when you have your first 14 years, your root and sacral, when there are imbalances there that create insecurity, instability, guilt, shame, your solar plexus builds on that and again creates imbalances based on those imbalances. So you may have, you may have self-doubt, lack of worthiness. You may have needless worry. You may even have anxiety. You may have no drive to follow your purpose. You may be in overdrive because you have to prove something. That's how I was in all those years. I was going to prove that I was worthy and I was in overdrive. It's really, the basis is really about that self-doubt, that disempowerment, again, that lack of worthiness that leads to not only patterns moving forward, but coping skills that may not be healthy. It may lead to the need for external validation. But here's the big one, and here's what we're talking about today. The big one, I think, is when we have these imbalances, and again, we feel disempowered, we become vulnerable to external influences. So think about teenagers, right? If they don't have that grounding and that security, they become vulnerable to things that may cause them difficulties in life, whether it be toxic relationships or poor choices or social media addiction, drug abuse, drinking, whatever it is. It's because of those imbalances that they become vulnerable. Now I want to broaden the scope a little bit. And I want you to think about the people that you know. Most people, most of us, have some sort of imbalance that can be brought back into balance. Have insecurities, maybe carry guilt and shame, maybe carry self-doubt, anxiety. And if you look at the people around you and look at the patterns that they're creating because of it, including yourself, now let's expand it even further. Collectively, many of us, the majority of us, feel disempowered. And as a result of that, we become vulnerable to external influences. We become vulnerable to the messages in our music or from Hollywood. Or think about advertising. They prey on the fact that we don't feel like we're enough. Look at our government. So when we feel disempowered, we are now vulnerable to those who are in power, right? So what does that do? Collectively, it makes us angry. And we regress back to those insecurities and that instability of the root chakra. We fall into survival collectively. And when you fall into survival, what happens, right? Fight or flight. So a lot of us, and listen, I don't have to tell you what's going on in the world. You know, if you have a phone in your pocket or a TV in your living room, it's pretty clear that it's chaos and mayhem out there. So if you are carrying these feelings of disempowerment collectively, you may disengage because it's too much. Or you may fall into fight and you want to fight the system or champion your cause. Or very often, because how do we do that? We feel disempowered. We turn on one another and we fight about the topic du jour, whatever they throw at us that we're supposed to fight about this week. And we fight amongst each other, which only exacerbates the disempowerment and the self-doubt and all of those things. Pretty dark, but how do we solve that? Well, we bring in our focus to the individual, to our microcosms, to our immediate family, our friends, our social groups. We start there. But the nucleus of that microcosm is you. And the only way you become impervious to those external influences is to bring yourself back into alignment. Now, there's no substitute for going back and digging through the muck, going back and looking at your root chakra, your ears, your sacral, and ultimately your solar plexus, which is the consequence of those insecurities and guilt and shame and all that. But when you do that and you bring your self-doubt into confidence and your lack of worthiness to a sense of empowerment, self-esteem, and you bring those back into alignment, and everybody does that, and they tell two friends and so on, we then become empowered as humanity, as society. And that out there ceases to exist. So, with that said, let's shift gears a little bit, because everything I do is about giving people, creating the resources for people so that they can, again, go out into the world and be empowered and be wonderful and all that stuff. But I created this deck of cards that we were talking about earlier. It's called the Ubuntu Girls Guide to Greatness. And each one of these women is a painting that I have done. And they each represent an aspect of self and about bringing these aspects back into alignment. So today, I chose Cherry. And Cherry's message is acknowledge your worthiness and revel in your greatness. We're conditioned. Don't acknowledge don't revel in your greatness because you may intimidate somebody or you may be conceited. But really, if we're not here to be the greatest versions of ourselves and then bring our gifts to the world, then what are we here for? Like, trust me, like if I was a size 4, I'd be standing here in a bikini right now. Like, if you have the goods, flaunt them. So that is her message. I don't have time to go through all the cards, the hot tips and all of that. If you're interested, feel free to hit my website and find the cards yourself. But I do want to share with you, because I'm giving you homework, and I want to share with you some introspective questions. We talked about this when I first started the chakra thing. Grab your notebook. You're getting homework. I just want to read some of the questions. The first one, and I'll go quickly. How do I speak to myself when I fail? And what does that reveal about my self-esteem? Number 2, where in my life am I still seeking external validation, and why? Number 3, what would change if I truly believed I was enough exactly as I am? Number 4, how can I honor myself more fully on a mental, emotional, and spiritual level? And I would suggest keep a running list. Keep a running list and pluck one and apply it on the daily. And the last one, what irrational beliefs am I ready to release about my value? And when I say irrational, I'm not talking about crazy. I'm talking about what's not based in logic, what's based in emotion or imbalances. And start there, because it starts with your willingness to look at it. And then go from there. So with that said, as always, thank you for listening. Do your homework. You're worth it. And Ubuntu.